This image, some say, is probably the first ever Buddhist iconographic, if you like to put it that way. Because even during the Ashoka's reign, there was no Buddhist image, Buddha's image even. Some say that this was actually even designed by the Buddha himself to remind his disciples some of the core teachings of himself. It's quite complicated, so I don't know how I'm going to do the justice tonight, but I will try. Often people ask this question, what is purpose of life? I think this is a wrong question to ask to a Buddhist. Rather, the question should be, what is life? A Zen master, a great Zen master once said, to study Buddhism is to study oneself. And to study oneself is to realize there is no oneself. And this is a very, I think, beautifully put into a nutshell. So, as you, I hope, through my small introduction, you will have a glimpse of what is life from the Buddhist perspective. It's like, mysterious? Absolutely not. It's something so straightforward. It can be like this, like when you shake hands, you say, like, I want to shake hand with you, and then you shake hand. You don't think in terms of, I want to touch your sweat, I want to touch your skin and bone. We don't think in terms of parts. We think in terms of a whole unit. This is an ignorance. Also, we think, when we think about our hand, we will always think, this is the same hand that I had yesterday. Right? Everybody will think like that. This is the same hand that I had yesterday, and this will be the same hand the same hand in the future, like tomorrow or the next minute. But that is not the case. The hand is always changing. Remember, because your precious hand is also under the clutches of the Lord Yama, the time. And this makes sense, because if your hand is not under the subject of time, you will not need moisturizer. Because your hand needs moisturizer, it proves that it's changing. And then not worse, it decays, it gets old, it will have wrinkles. Then finally it will disintegrate and it will fall apart. But all along there is a hidden assumption that this is the same hand that I had it 20 years ago. So when we talk about the ignorance, we are talking about nothing exceptional, nothing mysterious, nothing sort of mythical. We are talking about a fundamental ignorance of not knowing the truth of our existence. It doesn't matter, the hand is just an example, but every situation, our emotion, our feeling, our relationship, our values, things that we value today, we will not value tomorrow. If I modify a little bit of what great Indian Bengali master Atisha Dipamkara said, our value changes all the time. When we were children, we valued our dolls, our toys. Now, if someone breaks your toys those days, we go crazy. Now, it doesn't matter so much. Now we actually have renounced them. We have actually automatically become a sannyasin with a toy. I mean, most of us. Now we have a new toy. We have a new it doesn't matter. Whatever, fast cars, smartphone, whatever. By the time you reach to maybe 80 or 90, those things doesn't matter. Then maybe it will be like a tablecloth. Maybe it will be a salt shaker. Walking sticks. What. Something like this. So this is how our value changes. So everything changes, but all along we never realize this. And this is what is represented by the pig. And pig is a really important icon in this whole thing. And pig is also the source of time and the space. Because of ignorance, because of your assumption, therefore there is time and space. This is how the Buddhists would interpret. And now, once you have the pig, the ignorance, you will always have two other emotions. Broadly speaking, hope and fear. Hope gets when the hope becomes more strong and constructive, and when the hope becomes more assertive, then hope is what becomes greed, desire, attachment, which is usually represented by bird, rooster. Insatiable, supposedly, I don't know why. But this is how the 2,500 years ago the Buddhists have decided that the roosters are insatiable. And then the fear, when the fear becomes, uncontrollable, when the fear becomes very big, the fear becomes aggression. So that aggression is represented by snake, paranoid, always panicky, quick in asserting things. So these three, the ignorance, desire, and the anger, are sort of the almighty creator of all this perception called life. Now, if you go a little bit, so if you want to elaborate this, let's go to the outer ring, which is usually divided into two. There's a white ring and there is a black ring. And this, I need to explain this. This is something that I need to stress here today. The reason why I was saying earlier, I hope you will continue having fun and do all your crazy things. I have a reason why I had to say this, because one of the great Nalanda scholar, his name is Chandrakirti, he said, an idiot will do bad things, and then an idiot will, this is bad karma, the black one. An idiot will do bad things and go to hell. This is the hell realm, hungry ghost, and the animal realm. An idiot will do bad things and go to hell anyway. And then the next line, an idiot will do good things. Idiot still. An idiot will do good things and go to heaven and Asura realm and human realm. Idiot still. Only wise will transcend both bad and good and go to nirvana. This is why it's really, big misunderstanding that probably it has something to do with my outfit. It's a big misunderstanding that people think that, being Buddhist means then you can't have fun, you can't drive Ferrari. It's a mistake. You understand? Really, it's so important. I think this need to come across. Okay. Now, because you have a desire, anger, and ignorance, then out of hope and fear, out of panic, sometimes you do good things and sometimes you do bad things. And as a result of good things and bad things, you then experience what we call 6 realms, which is God realm, Asura realm. I think this is this is Asura realm, God realm, and the human realm. If you do bad things, you go to hell, a hungry ghost, and animal realm. Now, this is very important. I have to make it clear. In Buddhism, especially in Mahayana Buddhism, we don't believe in truly existing, externally existing hell realm underneath this earth. We also don't believe in God realm that exists up there somewhere. So how do we explain these 6 realms? 6 realms can be happening every day in your life. Let's say after a long night, probably tonight, drinking and going whatever you are doing, late night, you go to bed if you are lucky, and then next morning when you wake up, you are drowsy, you don't even know who is sleeping next to you. Maybe it could be your pet dog, who knows? I'm sorry, I'm becoming a little crazy now here. But you understand? So you don't even know who you are. And your mouth smells bad and everything is not right. This is the time that you are going through the animal realm. So when we say animal, we are not talking about some actual creature that has a horn and a tail. You are at that time going through the animal realm. Okay? Then you drag yourself out from the bed, you take a shower, shave, I don't know, whatever, and moisturizer, foundations, shampoo, aftershave, tie, suit, skirt, whatever, all of that. And then, of course, you keep on looking at the mirror and satisfy. You look good. You understand? You say, oh, you are presentable. You are quite happy with yourself. Now, what is happening there? You are being in the God realm. God realm is usually pride, not confident. Pride. Someone who thinks, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the most beautiful. I don't need to go to Korea. That kind of, you understand? That kind of mentality. So you go into God realm experience. Then you go to office. And then, I don't know, in the office what happens, your work situation. And then there probably you have a colleague who you really don't like, and you just, as soon as you walk in, you are informed that you are junior got a promotion or a bonus, and then you get jealous. Why him? Why her? Why not me? You are going through asura realm, jealousy. Okay? And then I guess aggression, fighting with people, aggressively working hard, just everything, like basically our life. Like even we even plan our holidays. We even plan our holidays. And once you plan holidays, then it's no more a holiday. It's a chore. It's a job. Then it's already, then, if you have planned your holiday, after 6 months you're going to Hawaii, everything has to fit into that. So there's no spontaneity. So you are basically doomed. Even the time that hasn't arrived is already used. There's no surprise. So then I guess all of those are poverty mentality, hungry ghost, probably, hell realm, a lot of, computation, all of that. So basically what I'm trying to say is that in a course of our life, every day, within one day or within 1 hour, we can travel through whole 6 realms. And remember, it's all caused by the pig. So this is the 6 realms. 6 realms. Okay. Now, the most outer ring, this is a complicated one. We are not going to visit there too much, but I'm going to explain just 1 or 2. Yes. It's called, in the Sanskrit term, it's called 12 nidanas. Okay. We were talking about our hand earlier. First, okay, there's a 12 sort of representation, 12 different sort of iconography. There is no such thing as the first one, actually. But usually when we explain this, we talk, first is a picture of a human, blind human. Again, going back to the pig is the same thing. Well, broadly speaking. So earlier I was using the hand, remember? So when we look at our hand, like this, when we look at our hand, and I'm not even talking something very deep and mysterious. When we look at our hand like this, we just don't see, we refuse to see blood, bone, veins. You understand? We see something depending on what kind of a fake confidence you have, something independent. We think in terms of whole, not parts. We think in terms of a hand that is permanent, and that gives rise to action. So then second one is, in the second iconography, we have a man busy making pots. So the moment you have this ignorance of seeing things as whole, as independent, as timeless, then that leads you to the next nidana, or we call it origination, which is action. Then we act, like a washing hand, taking care of hand, or using the hand. So we then this leads to the next one, so on and so forth. The last one is the death. Just the manner of speech, last one, even though it is not really the last. The death then leads back to the ignorance. So, but this is quite an important study in Buddhism. I'm sure most of you know. Okay, I'll explain this way. I'm sure most of you kind of have heard that in Buddhism they talk about nirvana, enlightenment, and samsara, kind of mundane, worldly life. Nirvana, supposedly the goal. Now, to really understand the concept of samsara and the nirvana, we study these 12 nidanas. So I want to put this in a very simple way here. It's like this. Let's say you don't like spiders. And in your dream, you dream hundreds of spiders coming towards you. It's called nightmare. And then you get so frantic, you suffer. This, if I put it in a very kind of in an easy way of explaining, this is a process, the whole process of dreaming the spider, getting scared of spider, running away from the spider, trying to do something to chase away the spider, is the 12 nidanas. And then, okay, but this has another important message. What is the important message? The important message is spider actually never existed. So, nirvana is actually a fake liberation. When you finally manage to get rid of the spider, have you really chased out a real spider? No. When you finally woke up from the dream, from the nightmare, was there a spider? No spider. You are peacefully sleeping in your bed. But all along, due to cause and condition, you dream spider. And while you are dreaming, even though it could be a 2-minute nap, you could be experiencing 2 years of struggling with spider. And when you wake up, the whole spider phenomena is gone. And not only the spider is gone, there is even the relief of having no more spider is a fake. And this is called absolute liberation. And this is quite important because And usually, okay, so actually this is just artists being very creative, and these are artists being very creative. But this one, there's a painting of a Buddha usually pointing at the sort of the space here, which in some ancient paintings you see this, and this is quite an important. This is where Buddha said, Om Yedarma Hedu Prabhava Hedun Tekin Tathagata Hayavadi Tekinsa Yoni Roda Evam Badi Mahasharmanaya Swaha, which means that everything comes from cause and condition. Nothing comes randomly or accidentally. And the real cause and condition is your mind. You are your own master. You are your own creator. Samsara is created by you. Therefore, nirvana is also created by you. You have to wake up from the dream, but you also have to wake up from thinking that what you have dreamt really existed. So, how should I put it? Nirvana, the concept of the nirvana is really to awake from the whole, what do you call it, habitual. So anyway, okay, put it in a nutshell. This whole painting is supposedly the most sophisticated painting to portray so-called habitual pattern. Because from the Buddhist point of view, we, you and I, are nothing but a habit. We are a continuum of a habit. We change one habit to another habit. What's wrong with that? Nothing, except many of these habits you become addicted to. And once you become addicted to, you have become a victim of your own habitual pattern. Can you get out of that? Yes. You yourself have got out of that. Do you still play with your Barbie doll? No. That used to be important, remember? Your toys. But you somehow managed to get rid of that. Nobody taught you how to have this strong renunciation from your toys, but you managed. But what happened is you got into the new habit. And if you are not careful, you will get into the habit of salt shaker or a tablecloths. And then habit continues. If you become the victim of the habit, you are what we call a samsaric being, cyclic existent, citizen of cyclic existent. Okay? What time is it?
We have 10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes. Okay. Now, all this is very good. All this is, good to hear, probably. I don't know. Sort of makes sense, logical, and it's also, it's not really, it's not, I would say there's nothing religious, actually. It's very, very much something that you can use your own rational mind, you can use your own logic to value all this what we have been talking. Now, this guy who is outside of this, he's saying we need to awaken. So now, and I have been also telling you, we are the victim of habit. So now your question is, how can we get out of this cyclic existence of habit? How? Isn't it impossible? Even Buddhism, isn't it just another habit? Yes. Even whatever you do, isn't it going to be another habit? And the Buddhists will say gladly and confidently that Buddha Dharma, Buddhism, is your biggest garbage that you have to throw at your last juncture or a point. Like the boat. If you take a boat from here to the other shore, once you reach to the other shore, if you are still in love with the boat, you are not on the other shore. So once you take Buddhism, Buddha Dharma, you go to the other shore, you have to get rid of Buddha Dharma. This is important because this is important. Buddha, it's really important to know that Buddha was never a Buddhist. It's only people like me who are stuck with being Buddhist. It's a very strong habit, it's a really, habits are, we don't want to go through too much. Habits are very sophisticated. But anyway, tonight, something to make it sort of meaningful, one question we can ask, how to get out of this habit? Buddha has taught so many ways. One very important one is, and probably I would say important, effective, user-friendly, and also, economical, is contemplation. Contemplation. And what are we contemplating? Lights, syllables, like some divine force? No, nothing. So I'll just, and what I'm telling you, I'm not making it up, it's all in the text. He said that enlightenment is not longable, but we have to long the unlongable. The reason is, if we don't, we end up longing other things that always gives us trouble. So we have to habituate ourselves. And I wasn't exaggerating when I'm talking about losing sleep on this. Why am I why I'm not doing this? Why I'm not contemplating? Because the moment you tell yourself, why am I not contemplating? Can you see? You are already contemplating. And that opens so many other doors. And of course, the spiritual doors. Even a cup of tea you might enjoy better. The reason is because right now, when we are drinking a cup of tea, already we are thinking about the next thing. We don't think that this is it. This is probably my last cup of tea. You don't have that kind of awareness, that kind of appreciation. So we just keep on missing the beauty and the simplicity of life. So yes, I will say invest and put more time in what I was calling it frustration of not being able to follow a spiritual path. I think that's a really good foundation. I would say this is the best mantra you can chant. Because many times the mantras that we chant, like Om, whatever, it ends up becoming another, like me, sometimes when I meditate in the past, in my meditation hut, I even had big sign written like, don't be distracted, like at the doors, on the ceilings, on the cupboards. After a while, I don't even look at them. They don't work. Because they are just another wall hang-up, So I think this concern, this sense of urgency, this Okay, if you want me to talk really like a Mahayana, Buddhist, this sense of urgency and this feeling awkward, even though everything is perfect, there's a continuous feeling awkward, is what Buddhists call your Buddha nature is kicking. Your Buddha nature, basic Buddha nature is telling you, hey, come on, wake up. This is not just it. There's something more. This is actually what I call cultivating renunciation. Because the word renunciation always gets interpreted as, shaving your hair and going to the cave and giving up everything. But the real renunciation is this constant concern and worry and urgency that I'm not doing enough. Buddhists actually don't believe in a superpower. So I don't have the responsibility to answer this question, actually. You understand? But you are talking about science. And it's quite interesting. Although right now, many young Buddhists have this trend, it has become a trend to talk about dialogue between the scientists and the Buddhist. I'm sure some of you have noticed this. Myself, I'm not that keen on with this because scientists and Buddhists have no mutual ground. We can, of course, have a nice tea and lunches and dinners, and we can go on and on and on and talk about science. And there are certain things that you can talk, like time is relative. Buddhists would agree with that. Especially in Buddhism. In Buddhism, subject and object comes simultaneously. And this is something that the scientists never understand. Scientists always assert that there has to be something like a planets or the things that existed independent from a knower as in perceiver. This is how the Buddhists say to the theologian that God can't be our creator. Why? Because the knower, someone who knows that this is God, has to be either before the God or at the same time, because he knows how he's the God. So God is there, and the knower of the God is here. So, oh, this is the God. So knower of the God is the creator of the God, and then later you can say the knower of the God can think that the God created me. That's fine. You can go on thinking like that, no problem. But that's your projection. Scientists, in many ways, I find very, very close to religious. Like they believe in Big Bang, for instance. Even though, as a Buddhist, I would say the knower of the Big Bang has to come either before the Big Bang or simultaneously. So Buddhists are very, very, what we call it, ontologist, is it? Ontologist. It's very, Buddhists really, in Buddhism, study of mind is like the most important. So anyway, to your second question, the almighty superpower truly existing, Buddhists don't believe. Now the first question, how do you define what is bad and what is good in Buddhism? This is an important question. In Buddhism, we talk about morality, we talk about ethic, we talk about good deeds. But we always say morality, ethic, good deeds, all these are secondary. Most important is the wisdom, prajna. Okay? So, how do we define what is bad and what is good? Anything anything that takes you closer to the truth is good. Anything that takes you away from the truth is bad. Okay? So you could look like a renunciant dwelling in a cave and meditating, but there is a hidden broadband somewhere. You understand? Checking your whatever, planning things, spiritual materialism, not good. You understand? Okay, you could be, completely, like a yuppie, or, grease, oil on your hair. I don't know, completely plate all your teeth with gold, drive the most fancy cars, do all sorts of crazy things, but also have the guts to give up everything in a minute. Not so bad. You understand? So the good and bad is what takes you closer to the truth. This is how the Buddhists will define. I hope I've managed to answer your question. A good question.
My question is, very this can everyone hear me?
Yes.
This is an important question. My question is, how do you gain a better appreciation of what we have in our lives? In terms of, I'm not sure if I'm speaking for everyone in this room, but all of us have a very comfortable standard of living.
Yes.
Good food, everything that one could require. How do you get a better appreciation of what you already have?
Okay. Buddha said, I will quote Buddha, Je tamjijinane in Tibetan, Je tamjijinane langpuchi, Je cho, dushi tamjijinane midagwe dushi cho, This is the first verses that we recite in the monasteries. Anyway, used to be, not so much nowadays. Je tamjijinane langpuchi, Je cho, which means of all the footprints, the most magnificent and majestic footprints are the footprints of the elephant. Of all the thoughts, most majestic and most magnificent thoughts is the impermanence. So I think to remind ourselves impermanence, that none of this can last. As I was saying earlier, it's so fragile. Everything, our life, our value, our system, our family, our friendship, everything is like a dewdrop in the morning, that it's a matter of time, it's going to fall apart, it's going to drop, it's going to disintegrate. This, although it sounds kind of negative, nobody likes to hear about things like this. But if you really think deeper, actually it can really make you appreciate much more. I mean, it's like, if you have a friend, like your boyfriend, girlfriend, who is quite healthy, after a while you get a little bit tired of this. But if your boyfriend or a girlfriend suddenly got a fatal disease like, I don't know, Ebola, wow, you just want to look at your friend all the time, because this is it. Your friend is going to go soon. So you have so much, even his bad onion smell doesn't bother you. All of that, because you appreciate, because this person is temporary. So I think, generating this temporariness is such a, I think, like the Japanese Zen, in the Zen tradition, they always talk about this, the beauty of temporary, beauty of temporariness, it's all becoming now very degenerated. Even in Japan, once one of the most thriving Buddhist country, they have so many beautiful traditions, like a tea ceremony, and then they have this, I don't know whether you know, sakura, cherry blossom gazing, sort of festival that lasts for a few days. Do you know this actually came from a Buddhist tradition? The most beautiful thing about cherry blossom season and all that gazing experience is because it's going to go in 6 days or a week. And that's why it's so beautiful. If cherry blossom is all the time there, it's so boring. So when we look at our things, that's how we have to look, like a cherry blossom. Okay?
I think I've dabbled in Buddhism in my own straight way, and the understanding I have what makes us successful is fulfilling your potential and being of service. I'm very curious to know how you define success, and how do you feel like a day has been fulfilled personally for you? I'm very curious to know.
Your question is my definition of success?
And how do you define a day fulfilled for you?
Personally, yeah?
Yes.
It's a very, very deep question. It's very complicated. I was born in a Buddhist family, raised by this really hardline Buddhist. So I'm told to think this way, think that way. And in my good days as a Buddhist, sometimes suddenly I remember, I think, I look at myself and then I realize how selfish I am, how greedy I am, how I don't do good deeds, enough good deeds, how I don't, how I'm not generous and all of this. So, unfortunately, this kind of depression only lasts few hours. Then it drifts into the normal greed, planning, so-called visioning, all of that. But sometimes I do get depressed, I'm, so selfish, so self-centered, so worldly, so materialistic. Okay, I'm defining my success. But then I do remember my teacher's advice that as a Buddhist, even realizing, with the tradition of the frustration that we were talking earlier, even realizing that I am selfish and I'm so self-centered, I'm materialistic, and few hours of depression, I as a follower of the Buddha, I will consider that day a successful day because I've tuned myself into spiritual path. But this doesn't happen all the time, so I'm not that successful Buddhist, I should say. Most of the time, I'm completely immersed with traps of vision. First of all, the spiritual world and the material world is always going to clash. If they don't clash, then the spiritual world is not being successful. You understand? So they will always clash. That's the sort of the, unfortunate. But nevertheless, this is the way. But then, not every one of us, even as I said, I was born in a Buddhist family, raised by the Buddhist masters of some of the greatest ones. we can't overnight become completely a spiritual seeker. As you said, we have social engagement, social responsibilities. We have to take care of our family, all of this. Yet, part of us also want to follow deeper, more meaningful, more, spiritual life. Is it possible to do it for now? I think so. And the way to do, I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but the way to do this is being what I call reluctant everything. I tell many of my friends, if you have the chance, be president of a country, but be president, be a reluctant president. Reluctant, but reluctant yet compassionate. You do it. It's a bit like this. If you are a mother, you would take your children to a beach and build a sand castle, and you will engage with the whole paraphernalia with playing with the sand castle, and really engage, right? Because you are love, you are caring for these children. But towards the evening, you also have the guts to say, okay, let's go home. This is not real, because there is a reality. So I think we as a modern people, we can always have that awareness of life as an illusion, life as temporary, and at the same time also, play along, glide through the whatever social expectations and all of that. And I think that's the only way, and it's a good way. If you forget the awareness of the reality, then you become so blind. We met a lot of these kind of people. They plan, they organize conferences, they do leadership training, they do management training, and they all seem to believe that it's going to work. Most of the time it doesn't work. It's because life is not like making tomato soup. Tomato soup, there's a recipe and there's some sort of a procedure. And if you follow that, to the certain extent, you will come up with a tomato soup. But with life, it's very difficult, because your partner might be in bad mood that morning. I don't know. Or, you might catch a cold, stuff like that. So temporary and so dependent. Okay? Any more?
Yeah, I just had a quick question as well. Mine's more related to the depiction.
Yes.
I was just wondering if there's any reason or rationale behind why there were so many geometrical shapes used when this was first formed. Like, you have the outer circle, you have the inner circle, you have hexagonal, and then everything is sort of, if you do this, then you're in the animal kingdom. If you do that, you're in that part of life. So why is everything so, why was it so compartmentalized when sort of philosophy maybe was also to try and...
First of all, I understand. No. Representation, when you represent and when you try to portray something very deep in the form of art, I guess you always require some sort of a shape and a form. But having said that, the circle is quite an important shape for Buddhists, because it represents beginningless and endless. Buddhists love using this word, beginningless and endless, because Buddhists just Buddhists detest beginning. Buddhists detest end. Buddhists think that anyone who talks about the beginning and the end are, eternalist or nihilist. Because you see, Buddhists believe in, time is relative. So the shape circle is one of the most favorite shape if you go into the Buddhist art, like mandalas and all of that. And then all the other, for the ease to understand, this presentation is supposedly created by, well, some say by the Buddha, but some say by Kashyapa and many other great monks to explain the ins and out and the logic of habitual mind, karma, karmic effect, and the projection of our life to illiterate people in the past. So then it goes very elaborated. I mean, there are hell realms. There are, like so many, like hideous paintings. Japanese have a really good ones, by the way, so good. In this one, I've noticed there's even an aeroplane in the human realm. Yeah, flying. This is fine. Yeah. And you can really elaborate this. If there's artists here, you can elaborate this. You can basically, it has to depict the contradiction of human beings and the absurd and vague, right? Absurd and vague human and any manifestation, but mainly human manifestation, like in the dining table, but go to toilet separately. You know what I mean? We can also do that together and have a discussion. But we don't do this in a sort of round table manner. But we eat together. There are things like that, absurd and sort of vague. And also things like our communication. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever. Like, oh, it's good. Good. It's so vague. What is good? Oh, it's, or not good, whatever, vague. Because it's all byproduct of habit. So as long as you can sort of depict that, then, supposedly good. Because, I was rushing through today. For instance, like in the God realm, usually in the traditional painting, there are a group of gods, they play, musical instrument. And they have food in front. No, actually that's in the ghost, Asura realm. They play, actually it's in the Indian, legend a lot. What is it called? Gandharva and Gandhara and Gandharva. Like they play music and they have a food in front. And they love the sound of the music so much, even though they are starving, they just can't stop playing. So sort of the very contradictory manifestation of human beings. In the hungry ghost realm, there are ghosts that has so much food, so much wealth, but they are like starving because they are so stingy, they dare not even eat. Stuff like that, there's so many. And then I used to always like to watch the section here, if you can see. There's a war waged between asuras and the god. Because, this is important by the way, it's very similar to what's happening in the world today. Because there's a tree, and this tree is what we call wish-fulfilling tree. Tree grows in the asura realm, but it blossoms on the god realm. Asuras takes care the tree. They really spend a lot of time and energy. But when it bears fruit, is the god they eat. So and asuras are really not happy. They think it's unfair. So stuff like that. Yeah.
Good evening. My question, I guess I have two questions. My first would be, is there a Buddhist utopic world? And if there is one, what does that look like? And this second question would be, does art exist in that utopia? Because artists are usually striving to be political, obviously, or in a rather subtle manner. They're usually striving to depict the utopic world. And I wonder if in a Buddhist utopic world, art exists. And if you could depict that for us. Thank you.
Buddhists do talk about concepts such as Shambhala. I don't know whether you have heard. Also, Buddhists do talk about Sukarvati. It's supposedly like, okay, I will tell you this. But you know, it's a bit like the Ganesha and the mouse. When they talk at glance, it's kind of very, very, like wow, all of that. But then when you go, as you go deeper and deeper and deeper, then they will make you realize this utopia is wherever you are sitting, right this very moment. It's usually always like that. There's so many like infinite stories like this. There is actually a whole practice even related to this, like how to sort of unlock and change your attitude so that you walk and turn right, and then you see your neighbor, the 7-Eleven, and then you realize, wow, this is the utopia. This your usual 7-Eleven. Do we have 7-Eleven here? Whatever, doesn't matter. McDonald's. Right now, the attitude is, oh, McDonald's, and especially if you have seen, what is it, Supersize and all of that, then you have a certain attitude built. But when you undo all these attitudes, when you manage to undo all these notes, supposedly, and I should say, I have met few people. I mean, now it's, I've met, actually, I know somebody from the top of my mind. I can think of. I have a friend actually who lives in France. One Rinpoche. His name is Pema Wangyal Rinpoche. No matter whatever food he eats so deliciously. No matter what, he's always like famished all the time. It doesn't matter what he eats. He's like, I think he has what I call utopia of taste. So it's like really a changing of attitude. So it's that. Anyway, your question about art, that's a very important question. There's actually a really, really important book written by a great master called Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, Dharma and Art. In Buddhism, the art has, in Buddhism is jutsal. The word art in Tibetan or Buddhist term is jutsal. The motivation is this. Motivation is you are supposed to tell the truth. But the only way to tell the truth is by telling a lie. You understand? And how you lie and the way you lie is the perfect. And if you do it properly, that is the art. So juma, illusion, trick. Like a poetry, I guess. You don't say straight. You sort of say it this way, that way, and then you. But of course, if you read like Basho or Japanese Zen haiku, Basho, it's wonderful. It's just so amazing. Like he would write about 3 lines of a pond and a frog, and then you can really make you feel that you can really begin to appreciate so much the present moment. I mean, if Basho is here, I'm sure he would write something so beautiful about this humming of this air conditioner, which we are conditioned to sort of, like, I say always this, there's only one thing that human beings know what to do, no matter who you are, whether you are religious, scientist, agnostic, skeptical, whatever, non-believer. There's only one thing that we can do and we do, and that's believe. Even not believing, you have a reason why you don't believe, and you are blindly believing in that reason. I'm not twisting your logic, by the way. It is, we believe that this is the espresso machine. We believe in certain coffee. I'm sure you have met some fanatical coffee follower, and then can talk on and on about how certain coffee went through a certain cat's mouth and came out from the bottom, and then that got grinded. Nothing in human realm, or in fact all sentient being, there's nothing we can do without a belief. But having said this, Buddhists talk about irrational devotion, which you don't want. Rational devotion, you need it for the time being. Finally, you have to transcend even the rational devotion. That's something Tantric Buddhists emphasize a lot, because devotion is only a tool.